who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hey, hello, welcome. Another exciting week. We're counting down the top 10 things that made us go
wow.
I am Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder. I am here with my continual inspiration, Tom Campbell.
I'm in no magazines this week.
Next week.
Next week, maybe.
And James St. James.
How do you do?
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Let's get to it.
Number 10.
People Choice Awards. When's the last time you watched a People's Choice Award?
1974.
Exactly. And Days of Our Lives one. They just moved. They've been on CBS forever. And they just moved to E, which kind of makes sense. And then they broadcast it last Sunday on almost every NBC Universal cable channel. So it was on USA, Bravo, that obnoxious thing.
Now, wait a minute. Wait, is the People's Choice Awards, is that the one where everyone knows in advance that they win and only the winners show up?
Well, growing up, it was huge, right? Because you knew it would be like, there'd be pictures of like the cast of Days of Our Lives. And surprisingly, they would win the soap opera thing. No one from All My Children would be there, right, even though they were nominated. And it's exactly the same thing, just so you know. Because that's a tradition to me. Yeah. It's like, don't make it a secret.
Do the people vote? Like, is it the people's choice?
I think it was online and stuff. RuPaul's Drag Race was nominated and did not win. We lost to The Voice. But that's why I kind of knew, as even ahead of time. Because I was just like, weren't we supposed to go to the People's Choice? Oh. we didn't make it past nominations. Hard to do. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I guess this is the beginning of award season, right? Is this the...
Yeah.
Is it?
It is. I mean, here's the thing about the People's Choice Awards, and it's hard to do any award show, and we love to pick on them. We love to watch them and pick on them. But there's something now, because we do watch everything in such segmented populations, that the idea of the big, most popular thing is sometimes the least exciting.
This is the People's Choice.
You're saying that it wasn't a very exciting show.
Look at me smile. Look at me smile.
But it's music, it's television,
well, can I run by some nominees, see if you guys did not watch, don't look at my screen.
Is it really books?
No.
Not at all. Movie of 2018. A Quiet Place, 50 Shades Freed, Incredibles 2, Black Panther, or Avengers Infinity War. What do you think won?
Now that is covering the waterfront, is it not?
What do you think won?
Incredibles 2. Avengers.
Yeah. Comedy. Love, Simon, The Spy Who Dumped Me, Blockers, Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, and Crazy Rich Asians.
Mamma Mia.
Either Crazy Rich Asians or The Spy Who Dumped Me.
Who Dumped Me.
I enjoyed The Spy Who Dumped Me. I thought that was worthy of a few nominees.
I'm going to go down a little further here. How about drama movie of 2018? Mm-hmm. Is it 50 Shades Freed, 12 Strong, Red Sparrow, Midnight Sun, A Quiet Place?
I don't know any of those except for A Quiet Place.
And that couldn't win.
It was probably Red Sparrow or something.
50 Shades Freed, the third version. Okay, the people have spoken, people.
50 Shades 3D or 50 Shades Freed?
3D is such a good idea. Why are you wasting your life here in this window when you should be promoting movies? I just want to do one more because I just want you to feel as dumb as I. This is more, again, an indictment against me. Well, drama show 2018 was Riverdale, so there was justice there.
Okay,
there was justice there.
I like what the people are choosing.
Yeah. And comedy show was Orange is the New Black, which should never be in the comedy category ever, and it beat Big Bang and Modern Blackish. But wait, hold.
But Blackish didn't win.
Reality show was The Kardashians, which I actually agree with.
What year is this? 2011?
I know. Okay, male TV star and best TV drama were both from
AJ Kappa from Riverdale.
It's both from Shadowhunters, The Mortal Instruments.
Oh, wait.
It's on Freeform. It's a phenomenon. It's about a girl on her 18th birthday, had to Google, who found out that she's not a normal human. She's some kind of...
Yes,
she's fighting spirits and demons. And Harry Shum Jr.
I love Harry Shum Jr. from Glee. Yes, of course. A very handsome Asian dancer.
So, and then here she is. The female star was Catherine McNamara from Shadowhunters, The Mortal Instruments. I mean, you just know you're out of it when the titles of the shows don't even seem to make sense. Right? They don't seem to even conjure a picture. It performed pretty well again, ratings wise, because you aggregate that number. But it's a tough thing. They don't have a host.
They don't have a host.
I was going to say,
they just drag people out and
Yes.
they drag CBS stars out.
NBC Universal stars, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll have to hear from the inside if it's considered a success over there. But it gave us a red carpet. It was also tough because it was literally happening as people's houses in Los Angeles were burning, and the fires continue to burn. So it was an odd night, and how many awards? I guess they do well. They make money for somebody because they keep making them, and I keep watching them. So good on ya. Good on ya.
Well, we've posted a link to all the winners of the People's Choice Awards on the Wow Report.
Okay.
And for a game, go see how many of them you recognize and how many you know. Yeah.
Number 9.
James, what have you got for number 9?
Oh, number 9, I got out of my house. I went to the movies. Exactly. I went to go see Overlord. Did you guys know about Overlord?
It's Nazi.
I am telling you, the critics are going bananas for it.
They love it. They
People
love
are doing backflips for this. Yes, it's absolutely fantastic. It's the zombie Nazi movie that people are just raving about. It's absolutely fantastic, and you laugh. You think, but it's not. It's Tarantino-esque is what it is.
Okay.
It's the writing is there.
Is it funny?
It's hysterical, and it's a scream a second. People are screaming and howling and jumping to their feet and hooting and hollering and everything like that. But it's not like jump cuts. It's not like jump scares. It's like actually scary. It's actually very good. Is
it set in the present day or in the past?
Okay. It's first of all, it's J.J. Abrams did it. So there you go.
We're done.
It's a group of soldiers parachute into France behind enemy lines during World War II. They have 48 hours to blow up a tower where there are Nazis doing secret experiments. And so they come to find out that the Nazis are bringing the dead back to life so that they can have an army of undead Nazi soldiers.
Oh, what happens?
Because the Nazi zombie trope, that is like a 50s,
It-
right?
it is.
It's
Well,
a setup for a cheapo
But
exploito.
actually, they were doing, very crazy experiences.
really?
They were doing like
Space-
paranormal. They were
true
trying
story.
to. Yes, they were trying to contact the dead. They were trying to contact aliens.
Of course,
they were trying to build spaceships.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes,
they were trying
all
to
of
find
that.
the Ark.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of. They were trying to
because-
find the goblet of the
The Lost Ark and all
Uh-huh.
that. Because the Nazis were a meth.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
There was method to their madness.
Oh dear, I think we cut that
Let's
one
get
out.
a little.
Anyway, it
Pun of the
stars a pouty-lipped, blonde, very handsome man who I kept thinking he was very Michael Pitt looking. He's very cute. His name is Wyatt Russell, and if you do a little IMDb, you realize
He's
that
the
he is
hottest boy in the world.
hottest boy in the world. But he is also the son of Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. Wyatt Russell, and he has.
Oh, those are some good genes.
Those are some very good genes.
They had one child together, I think, and that's it.
That's it. And he's just absolutely the biggest star on the planet. He's about to take over the Hollywood. He's absolutely fantastic. I have a feeling this could be a franchise because it sort of ends, open-ended, but it feels like it could get bigger and bigger and bigger until there are actual hordes of zombies.
Could be a Cloverfield type syndrome.
Well, actually,
where you have-
it's J.J. Abrams, and it was actually going to be part of the Cloverfield
was it?
trilogy, but then they realized it was such a good movie that it was a standalone.
Right.
But I'm telling you, and you
can't
laugh,
wait.
you
No,
scoff.
I am really excited to see it.
No.
I mean, I like zombie movies.
Well, but this, like I tell you, this is Tarantino-esque. It's like a cut above Grindhouse.
The thing about zombie movies I love is it's always that tipping point when they're sort of about to take over. Once they've taken over, it gets quite boring, doesn't it? They're just eating everything in sight. And in a way, this sounds like it's exploiting that tipping point.
Yeah,
more,
and
because
these
it's-
are fast-moving zombies. These are very, very fast-moving zombies. But it's also like Walking Dead, how they realize how to get past that. It's not about zombies at all. It's about the inner, it's about rebuilding society.
Yes.
And every once in a while, a zombie comes along and you stab it in the face and you move along. But this is sort of the same thing. This is about the interpersonal relationships of the soldiers and the war and how wars affect on people and blah blah blah. It's really fascinating. I think everyone should check it out. I love it.
Overlord is in select theaters now.
Number 8.
Oh, I don't know. I feel we've had the People's Choice Awards. We've had Overlord, Nazis, and zombies. And this is not a fun story. This is a horrible, dark story, which I started to watch.
To bring us down. Here we go.
Our viewers turn in, Fenton. That's what our listeners want to know. What's bringing you down this
There's
week?
no
cannibals?
cannibalism.
Okay,
no
good.
cannibals.
Cannibal-free episode.
Okay, so November 18th, which is coming up, 1978, the 40th anniversary of the People's Temple, which was in Guyana, where this entire cult, in fact, I think 950 people in all, committed mass suicide.
Do you remember where you were?
You know what? I absolutely do. I was at school, I read the paper, and something about this story, I guess for everyone, it just grabs you in the most awful place, you can't turn away. We were in a different time,
first of all, and now I think we would be inured to it. Maybe it wouldn't have quite the effect. This was
Jim Jones'
Kool-Aid. This is actually where drinking the Kool-Aid
is a huge phrase, which means falling in line and sort of falling into the.
He started a church. I mean, in many ways, it's a very familiar story in terms of cults. He started a church that was sort of a cult.
But like I said, it was new at the time.
It was new, and it was very socialist based. In fact, there were many things about it in its first iterations that were good. They were like looking after poor people. They were doing good work. But Jim Jones was a little unhinged, and as the cult grew and as he became more powerful, he became crazier and crazier and crazier. Eventually, relocating the entire church to Guyana, where they built an entire compound in the jungle. And there is something so creepy about it. It's like a sort of Heart of Darkness, but just
Now, are you just marking the anniversary, or is there a book or a documentary?
I'm so glad you said that.
That's why I'm here.
So much. That's why you're here. There's a 4-hour documentary event, executive produced by Leonardo DiCaprio and Stephen David, who did The Men Who Built America and Making of the Mob. So I have to say, I started to watch it thinking, I'm probably
a 4-hour slog. Yeah,
I am at the end of hour 3, and it's just, I feel I'm being, in Toy Story 3, when all the toys are going into the
inferno down
you want to look away, but you kind of can't, and it's just unbelievably, that's where I am.
Thank you for dumbing it down.
I
totally get it now.
No, but it is that thing where, as we are learning now about how easy it is to fall into fascism, it was how easy it is to fall into the sway of somebody, and it's like dominoes falling, and it's easier than you think to get to that dark place.
There are absolutely similarities with Trump.
Yeah.
In the compound, he would rant on a loudspeaker at 4 a.m., a whole epic, endless list of non sequiturs. I mean, Trump's tweets, they are very much the same thing, this sort of unhinged thing. And knowing there's a problem, because he created this community, it couldn't sustain itself. He knew it was sort of doomed. So what he did was up the drama and create distractions and single people out, and there were beatings, and it is a horrible, horrible story, but I think, one that people really should watch and know about, because I think the dangers of a cultic mindset. Today we think, we have so much information around us, how can a cult leader control us? Maybe more so than ever before. Somehow there is something in, perhaps particularly in America, that has a weakness or a soft spot for cultism.
Well, I often go back to "Tomorrow Belongs to Me" from Cabaret, that song. Remember the scene in there?
The Nazi youth.
The Nazi youth, and it's this young boy singing a song of national pride, and it's a clear voice. But as more people join in, and the beat gets stronger and stronger, it starts takes a dark turn. And the more people that join in, and the louder it gets, and the more cacophonous and everything like that, the easier it is just to get swept away in whatever is happening. And that's when things take a dark turn, you don't even realize that it's taking a dark turn
until
it's too
suddenly
late.
It's too late. People started to wake up to what was happening. There's a lot of survivors. I mean, there weren't many, but a lot of them are in this series.
It was largely Americans in
Guyana.
Yes,
they all went down to Guyana. Yeah, a lot of African Americans too. I mean, there's no doubt that the original intentions of what they were trying to do were good, but like you're an egg in boiling water, it gets warmer and warmer, and you just don't notice.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, the frog in the pot. Yeah.
Thank you, the frog in the pot. Terror in the Jungle premieres on Saturday, November 17th, 9 p.m. on Sundance TV.
And how did you get it before him?
You know, I have my ways and means.
And that's why you're in the Out 100.
No, actually, we've made a series with Sundance TV that will be coming up next year called Ministry of Evil, which is another Christian cult.
Another feel-good.
Off the rails. Yes, called the...
Sure to be honored at the People's Choice Awards.
But I do have a question for you.
Okay.
Because we'll be right back after these messages. The question is, we talked about the phrase "drink the Kool-Aid" derives from Jonestown.
Yeah.
To mock gullible people who will drink poison. But it wasn't Kool-Aid. What was it? You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy, SiriusXM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Fender Bailey here with James St. James, or as Courtney Love calls you, Jimmy St. Jimmy.
It's true.
I do love that. Jimmy St. Jimmy. And Tom Campbell.
Hello.
You. And Blake Jacobs.
Hi, guys.
Hi. So we were just talking about Jonestown, Terror in the Jungle, a 4-part series on Sundance that starts this weekend. You know, the phrase drinking the Kool-Aid comes from Jonestown.
I always thought it was Kool-Aid.
But you know it wasn't Kool-Aid.
I always thought it was Kool-Aid.
What do you think it was?
I'm thinking it's purple. I don't know why I think it's purple. And I think it's Welch's grape juice.
Oh, I'm thinking it's High C, which would be
nice.
very 70s. Or maybe Gatorade, which was probably you could probably get Gatorade in
Or Tang,
Ghana.
Tang.
I was going to say Tang or Hawaiian Punch.
What's the...
Oh my gosh. Well, you're right that it was purple because it was grape flavored. I mean, again,
I don't know
it's
why
such
I know that. It was
it's
purple.
so creepy.
What was it?
Just mixing cyanide with it was Flavor Aid.
Oh, yeah. The cheap version of
You
Kool-Aid.
like the way you'd like just put... It was liquid or something.
It was basically the same as Kool-Aid, but it was Flavor Aid. And it's just by some awful...
I've never heard
Flavor
that.
Aid must be so pissed that people don't say
Well,
drinking
they
the
went out-
Flavor Aid.
And Kool-Aid can't be very happy about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, interestingly, though, there's some great archive inside the compound. And in fact, they did have Kool-Aid in
Was Flavor Aid
cases.
like
But it just so happens that when they actually did it, they used Flavor Aid.
Was this a British thing, or is it like is it an urban thing? Is it a poor
I think it's
people
a budget thing.
It's a budget thing.
Yep.
Okay.
I think Flavor Aid was just generic Kool-Aid, right?
Okay.
I believe so. Okay, moving on with the top 10 things that made us go, wow.
Number 7.
Breaking news in Hollywood that got me very excited. Golden Child, producer-director Greg Berlanti, who we love, and you love all of his work on the CW.
I love me some. Wait, hold on. Just a second. Supergirl.
Yeah.
The Flash.
Yes.
Green Arrow.
Yes.
Riverdale.
Yes.
Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah. And then on top of
Love Simon.
Yes, Love
Yeah,
Simon, the feature.
Wow.
Well, because he has nothing going on, he's decided to take on a new movie project, a biopic of Rock Hudson.
I don't know why there hasn't been one before.
Yes, the mind blows, like, why-
So cinematic. What a life. What a life.
Such a hunk, Rock Hudson.
Didn't
So
get
good
hunkier.
looking, and you know. We'll see what it's about. But you know, what was his? I was going to look it up. His name was like some crazy name. He had some. Look up his real name. It's really
I
some.
saw it, yeah.
Like Doris Koppelheimer
Yes,
or whatever.
yes.
It's like one of those.
But he, you know, was in the. He served in the service. He came to Hollywood. They changed his name to Rock Hudson when they used to Tab Hunter. Rock Hudson.
I was going to say he's very sort of a Cary Grant for the modern. Like Cary Grant was 30s and
Yes.
40s, and he's sort of a Cary Grant
Yes.
character.
His
Yes.
name was Roy Harold Scherer Jr.
Roy Harold Scherer Jr.
Rock Hudson.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up with the Beverly Hillbillies. They made up the character Dash Rip Rock.
Oh, yeah,
It's the same
and
thing.
then wasn't there a Flintstones character as well? There was
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But, you know, he hooked up with an agent who infamously represented a lot of pretty boys that he would change their
Tab
name.
Hunter
Yes,
and-
and all
yes,
that kind of
Hudson, that
thing.
sounds like a porno name, doesn't it? You couldn't
It
do
does
that
today. No.
Rock Hudson.
Rock Hudson, Tab Hunter. all
Rock
those-
Hardon. Rock
Yes,
Hardon.
and he had an incredible career in the 50s, and he was with best friends with Elizabeth Taylor. He did Giant.
Yeah,
he
he
was
also all the Douglas Sirk movies.
Yes, Magnificent Obsession.
All That Heaven Allows.
Yes.
Things like that. And
And
then he was
then
more famous for.
he and Doris Day hooked up in 1959 in Pillow Talk, and they did a series of movies. But his dark hair,
Call
good
Me
lookingness.
Love. Wait, what was it?
Lover Come Back.
Lover Come Back and call
And
no
Don't-
Daisy.
Don't Send Me Flowers.
Don't Send Me Flowers. Yes.
But there was a review of Pillow Talk, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, that said that Doris Day and Rock Hudson in 1959 looked like two bright, shiny Cadillacs parked next to each other. And the 59 was the one with the big fins. It was the biggest Cadillac ever. It's like, yes. And then, of course, he did more movies movies, but he was on TV, McMillan and Wife
in the 70s.
His TV thing, probably when he made a lot of money. And then he we didn't see him that much. He was getting a little bit older. He was still handsome, considered handsome. He did Dynasty.
No, he wasn't handsome when he did Dynasty. He looked like death on a cracker. He was on his last. He really was. Remember, he was gaunt. When he came on camera, and everyone said, "We can't have him on camera. He looks terrible. He doesn't look like Rock anymore."
It's not my memory. I remember that he looked good on Dynasty, and then
Really?
No,
in
you're
1985 he appeared on a Doris Day special,
and that's when he was really
and that's when he looked really sick, and he didn't even he had deteriorated so much. It had only been a few months since he kissed Crystal on camera on Dynasty.
I debate this because I remember thinking how horrible he looked.
And then it was this very short, intense media period where we knew that Rock Hudson, for the first time America knew, it was a Hollywood secret, that he was gay, and it was because he had AIDS. And the biggest, most beautiful, most handsome, most macho box office star of all time had AIDS, and it really it made AIDS a national topic, which it had not been.
But here, once
point.
again, I think that your experience is different because you were in Los Angeles at the time, and in the 80s, in 85, 86, you were here, and so your experience with what was happening, where people were rallying around him, was very different than what was happening in the Midwest, where people were saying what that faggot, and people were turning against him, and it was one of those moments.
But I think we were confronted with the fact of AIDS, and to that point, we didn't have to talk about it. We didn't have to think about it, and we knew anybody with it. And suddenly, Rock Hudson with it, people had horrible responses.
That's what I'm saying.
They had to face it.
We had to come around a little bit. He had to die, I think, before. But while he was still alive, people were very angry, and people were like, "I can't believe it." They were like burning his movies and things like that, and bonfires, and it was very sad.
And so this is my civic duty to anyone listening. If Greg's listening, probably a big fan of the show. Does it need to be a gay person playing Rock Hudson? If so, I say Cheyenne Jackson.
Oh, well, yes, right.
And if not, if you want to just go for looks and kind of demeanor, this is him in this Rock in the 70s. This is Henry Cavill. This is Rock Hudson. That's Henry Cavill. This is Rock Hudson.
Okay,
that's Henry Cavill.
It's radio, darling, so nobody is seeing any of this.
We'll put him up. We'll put him up. Henry Cavill.
Because it's Greg Berlanti, I'm afraid it's going to go with Colton Haynes. I have a feeling that it's going to be, it's going to be that giant. And I don't know who will play Nancy Reagan.
What about Brendan Fraser?
He's a little old.
I think he's past this part.
Yeah. Sure.
And they could have different people play him, but he was tortured in many ways. It's going to be also, I hope, the story of a closeted man, which is very sad.
Right.
I think Mila Kunis is going to play Elizabeth Taylor.
And she'll win the People's Choice Award.
Oh, wow.
You tied it all up.
That is Hollywood imitating Hollywood. Okay. Rock Hudson biopic based on the book All That Heaven Allows, a biography of Rock Hudson, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, look forward to seeing who gets cast.
Number 6.
James, what do you got for us at number 6?
Wow. I watched The Outlaw King.
Yeah, I watched it too.
Okay, hold on. Wait. I get to talk about The Outlaw King, and then you get to chime in. That's the way this works. And
there's sort of a format. There's sort of a format here.
Because I know you are going to poo-poo it. You're going to do what you do. Every time I bring up anything, you're going to look your nose down upon it. But this is the Chris Pine penis movie. It's what everyone is screaming about.
Where do we first see the penis?
Well, have you not watched it? Did you give up?
Well, I'm not allowed to speak, but I just tell me, darling.
I think the penis is somewhere between his knees.
We're going to do a little setup here. We're going to go back. We're going to talk a little bit about the movie first of all. It's England 1304. We are in the middle of William Wallace. It is the era of King Edward I. It is, of course, I see this befuddled look on your face because you know nothing of English history. Once again, am I true?
And
am I right?
And you do know this.
Yes, of course I know this. Of course everybody knows William Wallace. It's Mel Gibson.
It's Robert the Bruce, right?
Braveheart.
Braveheart, yes.
Oh, okay.
Braveheart, dog.
All right.
Braveheart.
Good reading. Good reading.
Okay. So anyway, Robert the Bruce is Chris Pine. Okay.
Right.
Robert the Bruce, of course, darling. Hey.
Sounds like a hair salon in 1967.
I am now James the St. James. James the St. James.
Jimmy St. James.
Jimmy, yes. It's the thing is though about these period movies, I always get very excited because I love a period piece. I love costumes, everything like that. I agree with this. It looks like Renaissance fair. It looks like cosplayers at a Renaissance Renaissance Fair. It's really bad, and all the guys have they look like hipsters. They look like Williamsburg hipsters with ironic bowl cuts and ironic they all have fades. They look very with the hipster beards. It's very 2018 actually, even though it's 1304. Edward I of England has taken over. Robert the Bruce declares himself king, but he has to go on the run.
To unite the Scots, doesn't he?
He tries to reunite the Scots over with the Douglases or McDougalls or whatever.
The Tartan clans.
Yes, exactly.
Like
It also stars Aaron.
The penis.
It also stars Aaron Taylor Johnson, who it used to be a big star about 3 years ago. He was huge, biggest star on the planet, and then he sort of fell off the face of the earth. Now he has a supporting role. It's very sad. You do see one boy with these giant anime eyes, these big blue eyes, and you realize that it's Aaron, but he doesn't really have anything to do, and it's just awful anyway. The other point is that Billy Howell plays the young Prince of Wales, and I just want everybody to be on the lookout for Billy Howell. Now we're getting to the penis. Let's get to the penis. I think my TV, I have had it framed wrong, how.
So you missed the penis?
Because all of a sudden, there's the scene where he makes love to his wife, and it's very 2018. There's a lot of Me Too and consent and talk about consent, which probably didn't happen in 1302.
Probably didn't.
Yeah, and he finally weds his wife, and all of a sudden,
because she won't have it, will she?
No,
She's
no.
very much in charge from the beginning.
Yes. But I just see a bush, and then I don't know if they cut it off for television.
I have to tell you, with all due respect, you tell an amazing story. The topic, this to watch this, I'm glazed over, because history. I'm just a stupid guy. I don't know, but I have seen the penis online.
But wait a minute,
he gets out of some kind of watery lagoon.
That's another movie.
No, this is it.
Chris Pine's peen.
It is this movie.
He got out of a watery lagoon in Wonder Woman, didn't he?
But he
and
wasn't
we saw
naked.
his penis.
No, we didn't see it in Wonder Woman Girl. That didn't happen. But that's
Am I seeing the wrong meme
no,
online?
No, you were seeing it because it's
like Chris Pine in a lagoon.
But it's so blurry and far away.
Wait a minute. Okay. At Toronto Film Festival.
Yes. Okay, class it up.
No, there were 2 sightings of the penis. Now, on Netflix, we get one, and it's blurry. And the second one, I think they chopped it off at the bush.
So they're just using the penis as publicity.
They were, and
P for P.
And he went on this huge thing about why must men be singled out when women have been, for the beginning of cinema, we've seen boobs, and now I show my penis and it's news. And he gets on his high horse about it.
This is the second time that we've talked about it on the show.
Well, exactly. And
we still haven't seen it.
No, we have, but it's blurry.
It's low in the frame.
Let me guess. You got 5 minutes into it, and you were going to come on and bitch about it.
No, there's a meeting in the church, and I was just like, I'll come back to this later. I didn't find it. I'm with you. I felt it. Well, I felt that the history of it needed some contextualization in human terms. There was
you watch Braveheart first, and then you've got the context.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is,
I needed someone like you to help me understand.
It's supposed to be Game of
Do a
Thrones
screening with James.
It was supposed to be like a Game of Thrones or Outland or something like that, but it falls a little flat. It doesn't quite get it. But you have this knee-jerk reaction against British history. Like, are you a self-loathing Brit? Is that what it is?
No, I'm not actually. I think I thought it was really Robert Bruce was the story of Scotland's freedom from England.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
No,
you resent the Scots. Is that
love
what
the Scots?
Hey, my last name's Campbell.
Outlaw King, currently streaming on Netflix. Hey, James, you know what else is streaming on Netflix? That's right, World of Wonders Dancing Queen, starring Alyssa Edwards. Now there's some history. Right? Okay, number 5.
Number 5.
They'll love me when I'm dead.
I love you right now.
Oh, sweet. It is a documentary by Morgan Neville, who directed 30 Feet from Stardom, won the Academy Award, and also one of my favorite docs, he did Best of Enemies, the story about Gore Vidal versus...
that was good. That was good.
Of course, Won't You Be My Neighbor is his too. I mean, a fantastic documentary filmmaker.
Mr. Rogers doc.
He has made this documentary...
Crypto-Nazis.
...about Orson Welles.
William F. Buckley screams crypto-Nazis.
Oh, you're right.
Yes,
Yeah.
Crypto-Nazi faggot, I think.
Yes.
Was it. About Orson Welles' unfinished film, The Other Side of the Wind. which has never been seen.
Which I'd never heard of until this documentary. I didn't even know it existed.
And it in a way, it's an autobiography. The other side of what they've done is they've made a documentary about the making of The Other Side of the Wind. At the same time, they have restored The Other Side of the Wind, and that is also streaming on Netflix. You can see both things
What year
on
is
Netflix.
Was it 60s? Was it 70s? What era?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it must have been the 60s. It took him. He basically spent the last 15 years of his life, Orson Welles, making this film. And
while he was doing the P commercials,
right, and he was sort of pinning his Hollywood comeback on this film, and the film itself is about an aging film director trying to finish his last great movie. So it's one of those art imitating life things. Peter Bogdanovich is in it.
Oh.
Plays himself.
Remember when we saw Peter Bogdanovich at that party?
Yes.
And he was just sitting by himself at a chair.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, amazing that this film that was made all these years ago is finally seeing the light of day. I have to say, I have to have a little bitch about the Netflix interface. I only know about this because of Trey Spiegel. He texted me, saying, have you seen this?
Right.
And I was like, no, I haven't even heard about it. And it triggered a memory that actually a couple of years ago, there was all this excitement. Orson Welles, his last great film, is being restored, put together for the first time, making a documentary. And then suddenly, here it is on Netflix. Good luck finding it. And the algorithm is supposed to know everything I like.
Right.
But it doesn't show up.
Huh.
And extraordinarily, I didn't even realize, having watched the documentary, that the actual film, The Other Side of the Wind, was also on Netflix. I mean, if the algorithm wasn't like flashing lights at me saying you should.
That's why
watch
shows
this.
like this are so important.
Yes.
Right? We're the resistance.
I depend on your recommendations, James.
But
to know what to
the thing
watch
is,
on
because
Netflix.
I watch so much Netflix that it really does, the algorithm really does get me. And that's why when they say we have a Japanese soap opera for you that we think you'll like, they know.
And you know you're in for the ride.
I guess I need to watch more.
I think the more you watch, the more they understand you.
I used to have young Adam use my Netflix, and so I would get a lot of teen things.
That's funny.
You know, I have to say, I mean, it's a great documentary. I
he's
have
a
no idea what the film's about. Like, it's so brilliantly edited and sliced and diced. I had no idea what was going on from quite early on.
And yet, but Orson Welles is such a fascinating character.
Yes, and somehow elusive.
Yeah, exactly. But so brilliant and so.
What's the director that does Best in Show? The parody.
Christopher Guest.
Yeah.
This sounds like a Christian. Like, I believe you.
Yeah.
But that name of the film, what's it called?
The Other Side of the
Yes,
Wind.
It sounds like SCTV. It sounds
The
like
Other Side of the Wind. What is that about? What could that possibly be about? The other side of the wind.
it's one of those nonsensical
Yes.
phrases.
I loved it.
Christopher Guest has had a movie called A Mighty Wind.
That's
Right.
right.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what I
yeah,
thought.
And Orson filmed this forever, and there was no money, and there was no script, and it was a sort of sprawling 60s extravaganza.
But you know,
that
the
made no
fall
sense.
of Orson Welles, you know, from the most brilliant man on the planet to doing those. What was the wine commercials?
Oh, yes,
Ernest and
Sandeman.
Gallo. Was
Gallo,
it
Gallo.
Ernest and Gallo wines? And it was just like I remember in the '70s, it was very sad
Yeah.
and like.
Well, you know, he peaked too early, right? Because Citizen Kane, he came to call it the greatest curse of his life.
He was like only 28
Because
or
it
something,
was-
wasn't he, when he did
Yeah.
it?
But people usually have a comeback. He never really did.
No.
I mean, but you know, you think of Magnificent Ambersons. I mean, he really, you know, what was the one that is set with Marlene Dietrich in Mexico?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't think.
But I will tell you this.
Today he would be a guest judge on America's Got Talent. That would be his third act.
He, Gary, the DP, I can't remember his last name, that was filming this for so long, wasn't being paid, had to work, had to make porn films, and Orson Welles helped him out. So when he went off to film 1 Million Years AC/DC, a bisexual dinosaur, Orson Welles went and worked on it as well. Isn't
You
that
know,
great?
maybe instead of this, I would like to
Teamwork.
recommend another movie about Orson Welles. Orson Welles and Me, starring Zac Efron. It was a few years ago,
yeah.
and it was very good. So if you need to know your primer about Orson Welles before you watch
You may
this,
also like James St. James. Thank you for the recommendation.
And I'll tell you one last thing. Alan Cumming narrates the documentary and is fabulous.
Yeah.
He's on screen, he plays a sort of 50s, 60s executive.
That's great.
So the whole thing is so meta. It's meta on meta on meta.
Orson would have loved it.
Streaming on Netflix, Orson would have loved it.
Watch it for Orson.
Yeah, take it, watch it. On Netflix, streaming. Hey, Blake, we got a question for us?
I do. What company had to stop using their slogan after Rock Hudson's death?
I think I know.
Oh.
All right.
Let's go to commercial.
Okay, before we go to a commercial break, I just have to tell you that RuPaul's Drag Race Holly Slay Spectacular 8 queens will reunite and compete for the title of Drag Race Xmas Queen. Tune in Friday, December 7th, 8 p.m.
December
VH1.
7th. It used to be a day that lived in infamy because of Pearl Harbor. Now it's going to be the Holly Slay special.
Yep.
It's a joke. Can we joke anymore?
We can't joke about
We can't
Pearl
joke about
Harbor.
anything.
Girl.
Too soon?
Too soon.
This is the Wow Report on Radio Andy, SiriusXM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Fenton. I'm here with Tom and James, St. James, and Blake. And we've been counting down the top 10 things that made us go, wow.
Wow.
Okay, Blake, we had a question before the break.
Yes, it was. What company had to stop using their slogan after Rock Hudson's death of AIDS?
The product had to have been the diet supplement AIDS.
Yes.
AIDS.
AIDS, lose weight the AIDS way or something like that. What was it?
I like that.
No, it was actually the Prudential Life Insurance Company. They had to stop using their slogan,
Get
own
a
a
piece
own
of
a
the
piece
rock.
of the rock after Hudson died of AIDS. And many jokes were made about him in the slogan.
Oh.
So we're counting down the top 10 things that made us go, wow. This week we've reached number 4. Tom.
Number 4.
You know, we as a society have gotten very divided. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
We
I can
as
get
a podcast have gotten very divided.
very divided. I can very easily, I try not to just harangue people and just take low blows, but sort of stay to the issue, be very adamant to stay to the issue. An amazing miracle of bipartisan, of healing happened on Saturday Night Live, of all places, which is always very criticized for being very one-sided and very liberal. Dan Crenshaw, recently elected, or congressman-elect, and former Navy SEAL, 2 weeks ago, Pete Davidson, who seems to always be in the news for one thing or another, but Pete did a sketch where he made fun of him because he has an eye patch, and he looks kind of like a criminal from like a daytime soap or something, and everyone from the right and the left said because his guy was in Afghanistan and an IED
war
blew
hero.
off. He's a war
Yeah,
hero,
yeah.
and after he lost his eye, he continued serving, and Pete was in
3
hot water.
terms of
Yes.
service. But to be fair, Pete was being a goofball, and he was making fun of everyone.
Correct.
He made fun of himself at the same time.
Is this Pete with the butthole eyes?
Yes, Pete
Yes.
with the butthole eyes, who was dating Ariana Grande.
Right.
Yes, and she dumped him, and so
Yes.
I love Pete Davidson.
I do too.
I
No.
think he's just absolutely
But
adorable.
here he tiptoed into this world where you have fucked up, you're unforgiven. Everyone
and it
could
could
comes
have
at
been,
you.
and people were asking Saturday Night Live to say something or to fire him.
And people don't people that crucify people for the most part don't even watch the actual sketch.
Because it was a little benign. It was he
I
said
agree.
he looked like a porno actor, a hitman in a porno film. Was
he
the
does.
joke.
And so this week on Saturday Night Live, Dan Crenshaw accepted their invitation, showed up next to Pete Davidson on Weekend Update, and did the best. And Pete apologized first and said,
but we do have to mention that Pete's father died in 9/11. Okay,
Yes.
he was a fireman in 9/11.
Davidson's.
So he, for Pete to be able to make jokes about these things, it's sort of
Well,
anyway. That's neither here nor there.
Yes, but it does come together. But Dan Crenshaw is really the star of the moment because he was brave enough to show up, and he showed up, and he's like, basically, I made fun of you, now you make fun of me. He came up with 2 or 3 incredible burns that, according to Dan, he pitched to the writers. So
Yeah.
Dan shows up to Saturday Night Live and pitches comedy to the Saturday Night Live
And
writers.
it was funny because they're talking and they're having sort of a moment, and all of a sudden his phone rings and it's an Ariana Grande song.
Like his
It's
ringtone
his
is
ringtone.
Just keep breathing and breathing and breathing.
So Pete's like, really? And he's like, I'm just gonna let it ring. And so he just sits there and lets it ring, and it was a very funny moment.
And then Dan turns to the camera and gives this very articulate, very heartfelt thing about like we can all get along. And he said then and he said since that he came on because he wants Americans to be able to forgive each other. He's a Republican.
Yeah.
He's a veteran. I suppose there's a lot more. I was reading that Congress used to be filled with a lot more veterans, but because less people serve, like a smaller section of the population serves. But there's more this time. And if this is a Republican, I can get behind him.
Yeah, I mean, it is that thing where Republicans, the people are actually, nice. Everywhere you go, the people are good and people are nice. And whether Republican or Democrat, they're all good. But it's the partisanship that happens in D.C. that is, and so we can't demonize Republicans when you see that they're all good people.
And the left and right can agree on some things, Crenshaw said, adding that Americans can forgive one another. Yeah. We can remember what brings us together as a country, and we'll see good in each other and be able to laugh. We still got to be able to laugh.
You can watch Saturday Night Live on Saturday nights.
Is it live?
It is live. Yeah, and we can actually watch it at 8 o'clock on the West Coast.
I do like that.
Yeah, it's nice.
At 10:30, actually.
No, at 8:30. Oh, no, there's an
you're right.
There's an 8:30 and then there's a 10:30 and then
I love it. Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, the show on CNN where he goes to different places. CNN was put in a very difficult situation when Anthony Bourdain committed suicide last summer. They had already filmed the new season, and it was already knee-deep into editing and everything. And it's that idea of, do we hold on to it? Do we not show it? Well, they have sponsors. They had to show it. And it felt a little icky at first. It felt a little strange. People were questioning whether or not that was a good idea to go forward. And every episode, they kept saying 3 more episodes until the final episodes, and it felt like, it's hard to watch.
A little bit of exploitation.
A little exploitation. A little exploitative. Exactly. But also, there's sort of this impending doom coming, and you just it's hard. It takes every time he says something about how hard it was to get up in the morning. There's extra weight to it because we know. It was the final episode, and you kept thinking where is he going to go for the final episode? It's going to be something very big. It's going to be China. It's going to be Hong Kong, it's going to be Africa, something like that. Well, he went to the East Village. He went back to his East Village roots.
In New York City?
In New York City.
Wait, he's from the East Village?
Well, he was from Philadelphia, but then he lived in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s in the East Village.
You're kidding.
So...
You might have stepped over him while you were living in the East Village.
That's just it. And instead of doing food, he doesn't even talk about food. He goes to a few restaurants, but there's no food mentioned in the entire show. First of all, he starts off with Richard Hell from television, Richard Hell and the Voidoids, who was the man who invented punk rock. Malcolm McLaren came, saw him, went back to England, and created a little boy band called the Sex Pistols, based on Richard Hell. Okay, so Richard Hell is in the same apartment that he had in the 1970s. Then he talks. And they just get into this talking about, and they show all the footage and everything like that. Then he goes to Danny Fields, who was the music producer behind Iggy Pop, the Ramones. Then he talks to Kimbra Fowler. He goes and they have a hot dog, just a street vendor hot dog, and they talk about the voluptuous horror of a Karen Black. Then he goes to Fab Five Freddy, who basically brought graffiti art to the masses. Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat. He brought rap downtown and introduced Debbie Harry to it. Then we go to Debbie Harry and Chris Pine talking about the good old days.
Not Chris Stein.
Chris Stein. Yeah, Chris Pine. Chris Pine and his penis show up. But Chris Stein, and all of this is filled with lots of flashbacks and everything like that. Then he talks to Amos Poe and Jim Jarmusch, who were they were filmmakers in the punk rock scene. Then he goes to Clayton Patterson, who's a photographer who did all the
Clayton.
Clayton. You know Clayton, right? From back in the day.
Yeah.
Who has all his photos from the 80s and the 70s and everything like that. Then he talks to Lydia Lunch.
How long is the show?
It's an hour and a half. It was a special hour and a half episode. But every single one of them, it's jam packed with pictures, images and things like that. John Lurie, a couple other people I can't remember. Jack Carter, the performance artist, and we see all sorts of performance art from the 1970s of him. And then at the very end, they read a spoken word poem, and the ending, it's a montage of images from the 1970s and 1980s in New York, and it keeps going faster and faster and faster, and it's this loud punk rock music that keeps getting louder, and it's reverb, and it's just noise, and it's just louder and louder and louder, and the images are going faster and faster and faster, and the music's getting louder and louder and louder, and then all of a sudden just jump cut to black, just smash cut to black, and it just says the end, and it was the end of his life, it's the end of the career, it's the end of the show, it's the end of the series.
Getting chills.
And it literally tears are streaming down my face. It's just this noise that keeps getting louder louder and louder, and the images are going fast, and it's like, and then it's just fade to black, and it's really, really well done. And like I said, no food the entire time. It's just him.
There was a hot dog.
There was a hot dog. He and Debbie Harry are at a restaurant. Lydia Lunch, they're eating octopus. But the whole thing is not about, they don't talk about food. The whole thing was just getting back to his roots and talking to these people, these icons, these people that we know. And it was just fascinating. And it was a really beautifully done piece. And it was, even if I don't watch Anthony Bourdain, I don't really care for him. I mean, he's interesting. I fall into it once in a while. But this is something that you should watch if you have any interest in.
I can't wait to see it.
In New York history.
Discover more about Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown at explorepartsunknown.com.
Okay.
Wow. Fantastic, James. Thank you. Number 2.
Number 2.
Inside North Korea. National Geographic, they've been doing this very high-end HBO-type documentary programming. They have a mini-series inside North Korea, the DPKR, which is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which basically has been ruled for 70 years by one family, by Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un, with whom, of course, Trump had this ridiculous
bromance.
Détente bromance. Yes. And, in fact, as an aside, the White House minted a commemorative medal.
For fuck's sake.
I will post a picture on the report because I actually ordered 5 because I thought this is a classic moment.
You're right. It's brilliant.
Is this the wild Christmas present?
It really should be. And they arrived, and it's like, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump in profile. It's just so wrong.
And the New York Times this week uncovered that the building of nuclear bombs has continued and increased.
Of course.
You were there. You've been to North Korea.
I have. I realized now it was 6 years ago. Went to North Korea
that
with
long
the
ago?
intention, of making a documentary following the first Western artist ever invited to exhibit there. It hasn't happened yet, but just the other day there was a call, and who knows, it may happen. Although I don't know if I should go. I feel like, I've said so many mean things about Trump that if anything goes wrong, he's not going to come rescue me the way Bill went and rescued other people's, right? He's going to be like, keep him.
Well, wasn't it Lisa Ling's sister?
Lisa Ling's sister.
Yeah. Who went
What if we send James?
right.
She's friendly.
We'd love it there.
But it is an extraordinary story, and I really do think it's worth watching. I mean, I've only seen the sort of that they put online the first 20 minutes, but it really is a remarkable story. And I think you've got to remember that North Korea, South Korea, that divide was created in the aftermath of World War II, where they basically just cut the country in half. They just drew a line right across it. The Americans taking Seoul and leaving everything north of the 58th parallel or whatever it is to North Korea. I mean, it didn't seem like the most advanced process of resolution, or what you will.
And it really hasn't ever really been resolved.
But it is an extraordinary. I mean, again, I suppose my theme this week is cults and culty, because it's definitely a country under a cult leader.
But I remember when you went, I just can't believe it was 6 years ago, you couldn't have a cell phone there. You were blackout. We didn't know, is Fenton coming back? It was
They
all spooky.
take your phone at the airport when you put it in a locker.
And we were very worried about you because you were one of those people who would take a poster or something like that.
Oh, no, James, I'm a very well-behaved citizen.
But your interests are, I can just see. I mean, any crossing of the line is
right. You can mistakenly cross the line.
Do you have any idea of how? Because that's quite a feat to get there, to film, and to transmit back. How did this come about?
I think what they've done is there's a large number of defectors over the years who've been able to give accounts of what it's like inside. There are also smuggled out tapes and interviews.
Wow.
There isn't a lot of footage, but in a way, we've all sort of seen. If you just take the official propaganda videos of these incredibly militarized, ritualized routines, you take that, and then the few photos you see, there's no cars on the road, there's no shops. I mean,
there's no electricity
you
after
quickly get
5
an
o'clock
idea
at night.
of the austerity, and it's a really. But I think it is a fascinating series, and it's a country of 25 million. 1.21 million of them are in the army, in military service, which makes it the 4th largest army in the world.
It is just strange that it still exists in the 21st century. But then as we slide back in time, it does seem like that sort of might be the future of the world.
Yes, I mean, it is obviously a
Sorry, but
It
it's
seems
true,
like
no.
a time for the strongman myth seems to be capturing people's
And you see
hearts.
everywhere, all over the world, countries are falling to fascism
Yeah.
and to hard right-wing leaders.
Speaking of strong men,
dear.
RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 4.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Tom.
I'm reading your notes. I'm sorry.
Well, I will just finish up and say
I'm sorry.
Inside North Korea's Dynasty is a 4-part documentary series premiering back-to-back Sunday, November 11th. So you missed that. Sunday, November 18th is the finish on National Geographic. Yes, and the Queens for RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 4 were just announced. So you can head over
And
to
the start
Wow
date, so
Report.
December 7th, the day that will live in infamy, is when we have the one-time only Christmas special, the Hall Slay Spectacular. And then the following week, the 14th, before Christmas, in December, never happened before, Drag Race 4.
Can you spill some
All-Star
tea
starts.
about this? I mean, it's good, right?
It's really good.
Yeah.
People are already excited by I'll just go what I've been reading, and people are even more excited about cast 4 than the cast before. But just when we think, as a producer, I'm always nervous. Is it still going to be good? And oh, it's so good. It's so good and juicy. Anyway. Any more and I'll be fired.
We have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow, 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 wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back. We've been counting down the top 10 things that made us go,
Wow.
Benton, me, Tom,
Me,
James,
him.
Me.
mine.
Number 1.
Number 1. Oh, it's a sad one.
Stan Lee passed away. Now, it's interesting because, when that first happens, it's been such a horrible week because of the fires and the shootings before the fires. And I always want to keep feeling away from me. There's just too much happening.
yes,
There's too much sadness. I try to pick and choose. And when Stan Lee dies, I think, not in a mean way, but I don't need to process this. But then you just take a moment. And Stan Lee, whether you're a comic fan or action hero fan, his 95 years, he affected so much pop culture. And we live in a world that's largely shaped pop culture by Stan Lee. So it's quite a lot.
Spider-Man, Ant-Man, Fantastic Four,
Doctor
the
Strange,
Hulk, Doctor Strange,
Daredevil, Black Panther, X-Men, on and on. I mean,
Ant-Man.
Even
I
characters,
said that.
Marvel created characters I didn't even realize were Marvel comics. Now I can't think of any examples.
And could he have a bigger moment right now? Like a lot of times when people die at 95, it's like, oh, let's talk about their accomplishments in the 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s. That franchise and those characters, I think this year, like 3 of his
Black
franchises.
Panther is one of the biggest films of all time.
Yes,
you know?
and that with Ant-Man and
the
meets the
Avengers,
Wasp Man.
And Fenton loved Thor Ragnarok.
No, I do too. I think it's
Oh
one of
my
the best
God.
movies of all time.
It is.
It's a fantastic
It's the campus
movie.
it's
no,
camp
it's
classic.
so good, and
Yeah.
it's so well written. It's beautifully
Very
directed.
clever,
Yeah,
hilarious.
you know the director, don't you?
Yeah, Taika.
Yeah.
Waititi.
But I do want to say, when you read back about his history, and he started in 1939. He was 16 years old. He was a sweep. He was a gopher at a comic book place. But by
At Marvel,
19,
he started that.
It was called Time Comics or something
Yeah,
like that.
it was
at the time.
basically the same guy.
Yeah. Then at age 19, he took over as editor-in-chief of the country. Age 19. Then he went to World War II. He came back, and that's when he started Spider-Man and all those things.
And they were talking about how in the 40s comic books were really big and people watched them, and then TV came along, and there was a government movement that comic books were bad for kids.
I got lost in the whole comic code authority story.
Yeah,
It's
in the early
fascinating.
50s, comic books just shut down. There was no DC, there was no Marvel,
and so his wife is the one. She passed away last year. They were together for like 60 years or something. She said, why don't you write what you want to write? And that's when Spider-Man started and all that
Which
kind of
was
stuff.
their biggest.
Yeah.
And I remember my brother loving Spider-Man in the 60s
Oh, I
so
love
much.
Spider-Man too. I
Well,
had
it was
like
angst.
I was
It
like
was-
6, and I had it was a sort of first erotic inclination.
Yeah, he
was so hot.
He
in
was,
that
but
outfit.
the thing about Marvel is that they
spandex.
incorporated real storylines, things that were happening in real life. They were also the first heroes that were conflicted. There was lots of gray areas in morality, everything like that.
And
that
it was
had never
during the
been done in
60s and
comics.
70s when we were largely a progressive society, and so
there
a
was
lot of issues
upheaval
of race and
drugs and things like that all
know,
seeped into the comic books.
It was his childhood dream to write the great American novel. I guess he kind of did better than that.
did.
He kind of created the entire American culture.
It's a little bit. It's like it's Shakespeare or it's like Greek plays or something like that, where these are the myths of our time. Batman, Spider-Man. These are all the things that we go back to time and time again.
I was also reading that there's some controversy surrounding him because people say he's the creator, and then there were always the artists and how it worked.
With Joe Kirby, he worked a long time with Joe Kirby, but a lot of it, he was the creator or co-creator of these things.
That much money and that creation is a very flexible, specious kind of thing, right? But even with a little bit of controversy surrounding it, I feel like it's.
He did have the last 10 years were very hard. He was there were some
lawsuits
there was lawsuits. There was some elder abuse allegations, things like that. His wife had died. He had a lot of illnesses, and he ended up suing Marvel and then getting some money.
And you sent me that link of different artists.
Listen, there's a bunch of artists that were doing pictures, and there was one that really spoke. He's at the pearly gates, and God says, you weren't bad at building universes too. And it's
you weren't so bad. But it's this beautiful. We should post it on the Wow Report if you didn't already. But it's just beautiful artistic tributes to him, like all his cartoon characters.
All the cartoon characters crying at his grave and everything. It's really nice.
Tearing up again. Twice
what a life!
Show.
What a life!
Yes. Resistor of the week. Yes, we do have one. Jordan Blue.
Blue.
God bless Jordan Blue. God bless the
Jordan
children.
Blue, for those who have been paying attention, there's that picture of those high school juniors in Wisconsin doing what appears to be, hard to deny, a Nazi salute.
A Sig Heil.
And he is the one in the corner, I think the only one who sort of, his arms crossed, looks very uncomfortable.
Wearing a bow tie.
And he happens to be gay. He's openly gay. And he's gone on the talk show circuit. And he said that the photographer who, again, this is where I don't want to be like the Pete Davidson controversy, but it's hard to not think that they were doing, because one also was doing that crazy
the white power symbol.
Yeah. So listen, in high school, on this show today, I've done a lot of stupid things. So, but we have to. I'm glad that he stood up. He didn't do it, and then this comes into the consciousness, and we can't just let this happen. Like, they're stupid high school kids. I don't want their lives ruined, but it's not okay. It's not funny.
No,
it's too close to home.
It was very nice that he said that at the moment he couldn't get out of the picture because it happened within 5 seconds, and he felt very uncomfortable, and he wanted to stand up and say that this isn't right. And so, for a young, he said he'd been bullied by those students all his life, and the whole thing.
And to have the presence of mind not to do what everyone else is doing takes a lot of character.
And to do it at that age, like I have a feeling we're going to hear more of Jordan Blue.
Join us for RuPaul's DragCon Los Angeles 2019, May 24, 25, 26. Tickets are on sale now at RuPaul'sDragCon.com. Thank you, Tom.
We made it through.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank y'all.
Trying to be nicer.
Let's do that. Let's make that our goal.
That's it.
Then we won't have a radio show.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Wow Report, Radio Andy, SiriusXM. Listen anytime on the Sirius Radio app or watch anytime on the Wow Report.
I just put Wow Report into the search on YouTube and boom, it pops up. Let's make it. I can make
so
it
much
easy
easier
for
than
dumb
saying
people.
.com or
I just put Wow Report in.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Hey, it's same time, same place next week.
I'll be here.
Let's do it.
Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.